So a while back, I introduced you to this rehabilitation project. I built the shed that's behind me back in 1986. I didn't really know what I was doing. It's kind of a wonky shape and it's deteriorated over the 30 plus years, but I didn't want to get rid of it. It's a useful building. Kind of got sentimental value too. So I thought, even though it's not the greatest building in the world, I'm going to pull out the stops and treat it nicely. And I showed you how I did that with some plywood on the outside and cedar shingles and things. I just wanted to give you an update on that and show you some of the details. I guess one of the most striking ones is that decorative shingle work up in the peak, the gable there. That's something that I first started to think about when I visited Mackinac Island in Michigan. There's a lot of great old buildings there. A lot of them have white cedar shingles, including decorative stuff like you see there. So the process, I make those shingles too. You can't really buy them. So the process starts with taking some good shingles and trimming them to width, a consistent width. In this case, it's 4 7/8 inches wide. That's what I found looks good. And there's two kinds of shapes there. There's the rounded shape, which is just a full semicircle. I have a pattern, trace it, rough cut it on the scroll saw, and then just finish up on the edge sander. It doesn't take very long. Once I have these things cut, it's probably about, less than 2 minutes work in total to shape each one. The other kinds of shingles, the pointy ones, I trim on the chop saw. I wheel my chop saw over all the way as far as it'll go in one direction and cut one side and then the other. It's important to start, you can see here on this pointed one, there's the middle is marked. It's the middle of the shingle. So that's what I go by, make one cut here and then flip it over and do the other side. That's what's going on in the peak. It adds a lot of interest. Well, I'll show you. Let's go around to the other side of the shed. The other end, I didn't bother doing decorative things. It's almost finished to the peak, but you'll see the difference. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just sort of more ordinary. And like I said, I wanted to pull out all the stops. It's kind of a weird project in that it's fundamentally flawed. I mean, can you see that? Look at that corner. I mean, that's leaning in. I measured it. It's about 2.5 degrees from square. It's solid and stable. It's not going to go anywhere. But it did require some fancy footwork as far as shingling goes, because every time a shingle meets that corner board, it needed to be custom cut to that angle. The same sort of wonkiness is over here too. It made for an interesting project, but I mean, look at this windowsill. The whole building is sagged a little bit before I stabilized it. But look at this. These shingle courses are level. Okay, they are level. Look at this side where the shingle comes. This same course over here, it's the same level as the other course. Look at how much the trim drops down.
Yeah, you had to get pretty artistic there, didn't you?
Well, a lot of individual cuts. Down here, this is something worth noting too. I've got some copper flashing on here. This is pressure treated wood of the sort that never rots. It's foundation grade, so you can actually build a below ground foundation with it and it'll never rot, but it's highly corrosive to metal, especially aluminum. Copper, no problem. So that's why I had this copper flashing bent up, because you don't want water to get behind this. It's got a shed down over it. Now, one other thing I want to show you here. This shed isn't really electrified in the usual sense, but I do want to have power in it because we have our electric fencer in there, the thing that energizes the fence. There's an outlet or two. There's some lights as well. But I don't want to run a regular power circuit to it because I don't need power here that often. So I found this online. It's just a fitting. 2-inch diameter hole saw makes the hole for this male plug-in inside. I mean, you can cover it, it seals, but then it also takes the end of any sort of extension cord that's not too big and weird shaped.
It's on the other side of that. Side.
Well, we can take a look if you like. Oh, by the way, before we go in there, there's going to be a new door. This is the old door here. The new door is going to go within the frame opening and just look a lot nicer and more in keeping with the new look.
That'll be for the next video.
Right. So let's see, this is the end that comes from that fitting I showed you on the outside, and then this is how we plug in the shed. This is essentially, it goes to this electrical box, which happens to be a plug outlet and serves all the circuits in the shed like that. So
that's slick. Yeah. Well, I remember before we just had that hole in the wall.
Yeah, it's it was a little primitive before, but looking better now. Now, one other thing I want to show you. Come over to this side. I'm not actually finished the shingling yet, but you might find it interesting to see what's going on here. It's not just shingles against the wood. Because this is kind of a, the shed doesn't have a proper foundation. I have beefed up the foundation, but I wanted to stabilize the whole structure, so it didn't really need the full support of a foundation to stop from sagging and twisting and moving. So I put some 3/4 inch plywood everywhere against the frame, and that gave me more than enough wood to install these shingles with 1.5 inch long stainless steel staples that go in. A lot of wood to anchor to, and the whole thing is stabilized now. The shingles fit over top of a drainage membrane, as I introduced you to in the previous shed video, which in turn is on top of this. This is kind of a house wrap, but it's a lot stronger, and it's breathable too. So it's way better than regular house wrap. I don't like regular house wrap. It's a complete waste of time and money as far as I'm concerned, because if you've ever cut into a home with siding of any sort that has building wrap on it, 10, 15, 20 years after it's built, the stuff's in tatters. It's just not performing any function at all, except making you feel good when the building goes up. This strip here is where I'm going to be putting the next course of shingles. This is held on with 23 gauge pins, so tiny little holes the size of a sewing needle. I can easily, it's loose, I can easily pull it off when I've done this next course of shingles. You can also see the copper flashing up here. There's going to be another layer of the black wrap that goes on top of that, and then the gray dimpled stuff, and then shingles, and then the job's done. Now, my plan for finishing is to treat these shingles with eco wood treatment, which will make the shingles evenly weathered, a nice sort of olive gray brown color, and you never need to do anything else after that. It'll be that color right up to the under the eaves. It won't be mottled and light under the eaves and darker down here. It's going to be even, and it just works really, really well. So I'll show you that in the next video.
Wonder if that neighbor with the seaplane knows he's messing up our video right now.
That's Wade. There he is.